So basically what we're talking about today is women, the role that women have in Africa as industries are concerned. I'd like to share some statistics with all of us just to kind of paint the picture that we have in Africa, okay? Now, we know that the majority of women in Africa are self-employed, isn't it? But unfortunately, it's in low-growth sectors or low-skilled jobs. And even looking at resources or wealth creation and asset building, guess what? About 3 to 20% are actually landowners. Yet women are much higher. The percentage in the labor force goes between 40 to 60%. Are you seeing the disparity? And we are the ones supposed to take over in asset management and in wealth creation. How come there's that disparity? How come women, we are very comfortable in dealing with all the other industries? You know, we are much more comfortable with nursing, even in terms of careers, and we're not taking up industry. We don't want to take up the oil industry. We don't, even if it's in the arts, we're taking up arts as one event company and not really taking it as a storm to take it into the industry level. How come? What has brought us to that place, and why is that disparity there? I'd like to start with you. Yes.
Check. All right. That's an interesting question. And I think it's also a very complicated answer. If I speak about my industry, when I came into this industry, first I am a musician, I'm a singer, I'm a drummer, I'm a rapper. In the industry that I walked into, which is this multi-billion industry, yes, women have played a very small role, which is the front person entertainer, right? So you have an amazing Brenda Fassie, or you have Miriam Makeba, you have a very strong woman at the front. But the women don't actually own the music that they sing. This music is owned by music labels, the people who paid for them to go to record the music. They don't actually own, you know, the money behind the money.
Yes.
So in the food chain of entertainment, the actual entertainer gets a fraction, or at least that's the way it has been for a long time. They get a fraction of the whole pie. Part of it, I think, is cultural. It's just structural, not cultural, structural. Where are women expected to play a role? If a pretty young thing is in front of a microphone, can we make more money out of an audience? Generally, the answer tends to be yes. Therefore, women were allowed to play this role. Now, when I say allowed, I have to insinuate that there was a gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper was the person who actually had the resources. If you want to make a movie, you have a script, and then you have to get actors, and then you have to get an actual camera, and then you have to film it, and then you have to edit it, and then you have to. There is a lot of money involvement. Majority of the women on the continent do not have access to that kind of capital.
Or even the information.
All the information. So I think that structurally, women were already disempowered from the get-go as far as that was concerned, because they came in to fit a space in the scheme of this, in the bigger scheme of things. Can this be surpassed or surmounted? Certainly. I think that that's one of the most interesting and exciting things about the time that we're living in, is that technology has turned the world upside down, right? And so increasingly, there's shortcuts to things. So now, the things that were so capital intensive can be bypassed. And the more women are able to access the means of production, the thing that you're doing, the more you can have control over it. Whether it's rights of the thing that is being produced, the actual content that is being produced, the more likely you are to get onto to climb the rung and get out of that sort of small frontman role.
That's a good one. So access helps us to become key players and even leaders in the industry. Okay, we'll come to you. In terms of HR, what's your view of it? Because even as you look at industry and taking over, at times it just starts from the personal level, isn't it? If I can't even leave my job, you know, and the security that's there, in as much as there's a place and a significant role to be played, if someone knows that this is what I want to step out into. But from a simple HR perspective, what's your view in terms of men versus women? How many have been able to step out Because when we see industries coming up and the Tabithas of this world, it just takes that individual to step up. What's been your observation and what are your thoughts about that?
Okay, thank you for that. I'd like to echo a bit of what you've said. I think you're on point on that. But I think as an HR practitioner, what we find, we spend a lot of time helping clients in the whole space of talent acquisition. The challenge we face is that many a times the positions or professions that tend to pay well or tend to be in the space where you have an opportunity to make loads of money and invest in bigger projects tend to be dominated by men. So you'll find, and this stems back from the past, our parents, our grandparents, what professions did they encourage women to pursue? It's your secretary, it's your admin assistant, it's your professions that will automatically put you in a place where you can become a production manager, an engineer, run a factory, etc. So I think it stems from the history of our parents, our grandparents, but I see things changing with the younger generation, her age and younger, because more and more you're finding women are becoming self-empowered. They're taking up, they're empowering themselves, even if some of the parents may be a bit more conservative. But you also find that their parents now are the younger ones who are exposed and believe that their children can become anything they want to be. So I think with time, you're going to see that changing. I think the other aspect is around, I think somebody was talking about government and how they have this 30% procurement space for women, business owners, and you'll find they have a cap. You know, I'll talk about myself, I brought it up before. The limit for you to qualify was you need to have a turnover of 500,000. But that's not the space I'm operating in. That's not the space she's operating in, and that's not a space you're operating in. So it basically automatically disqualifies you from applying to play with the heavy players in terms of turnover. So I think it goes back to the history and the orientation. Yeah.
But it's a good thing that things are changing and people are stepping out more and more. Let's come to Tabitha. I'll just ask the question that many people are wondering and get right to it. How on earth did you decide to step out and face Goliath? You know, there are so many other industries that you'd have taken, if nothing else, to choose life and prosperity. You know what I mean? Some challenges you take up, it feels like, how on earth do you step out to such situations? So why did you step out and decide to go into industry in such a radical manner? And why do you think many women, we choose not to step out?
Hi everyone. Maybe I start with the last question. That why women are not out there competing with men. Okay, I always talk throughout of my experience, my 18-year experience. And realized is because we women, just as they've said, the culture, how we've been brought up, is that women, there is a space for men and for women. Even when I came in, I was being told that you're getting into a men's world, But you get in there, you realize there is no men's world and women's world. Everything belongs to us. We just need to believe in ourselves. And in fact, because of the culture where we've come from, although the world has evolved, women need to work a little bit harder so that we can be believed that we can do even better. So you compare what maybe I've done in the last 18 years. If it was a man, maybe he didn't need to do all what I've done. But for me, I had to do a little bit harder so that I could prove that even women can even do better than what men can do. Even getting to the banks, you see, you have to be asked whether you have your husband and all that. But then when you reach a certain level, they don't care anymore whether you're married or not. So we just need to work that little bit harder, get up, and then we are viewed as our fellow men. If I may say why I came into the liquor industry being a woman, and in Africa, where alcohol is known, is for men, even maybe it's only now that we are allowed to go to the bars and all that. Maybe during our mothers, women were never allowed to go to the bars, it was for the men. If you're found in the bar, maybe you're named another name. But today, we are allowed to go and socialize with our fellow friends, men or women. I was working in a hardware business for the last 10 years, and I realized whatever we were selling was being manufactured. And then I thought, why don't I ever think of picking any of whatever we are selling and start manufacturing? But that is hardware, that is cement, mabati, name it, iron sheet, nails and the rest. So when going out, thinking let's go and do a bit of research in a lay language, because we didn't have capital. You know the way you hire people so that they can go and do research for you. So you go outside there yourself, a month or 2 months, and then you realize there's a gap in the Rika market. And this time, there is a market that has been neglected, the lower end of the market. And we thought, why don't we come in and service the lower market? And this market, make sure that you can bottle something that meets international standard, that is quality and hygienically packaged, so that even they can also go to the bars and enjoy with the middle and upper class. And immediately after we started that was in 1998, because the research was done in 1997, the product was received very well in the market. And as we were working on the lower market again, we discovered there was also a gap in the upper market, middle and upper market. And this time again we said, there's been a monopoly for the last 80 years. So you cannot ever just enter in the same market with the same type of product. So you needed to go a bit higher than what was in the market. And that's how maybe you've heard about our beer, if you've ever tasted it. It's a naturally brewed beer with no sugar, with no hangover, even after you drink. Past whatever, you'll be able to go to work in the morning. And after we came up again, we found Kumbe, there was this gap again, so we filled again the gap. And as we speak, the next 1 month, we are expanding. Our expansion that is going on in the next maybe 1 month, we'll be launching it. It's at 10 times than what we've been having. And that's not the end, we still continue. So when you reach that world, there's no man or woman anymore, you are received. But when you're here down, there will always be that thing of, is a man's world, is a whatever. But when you break that ceiling, it's normal. So let's believe in ourselves, let's break those ceilings that are put there for us, and we will change this world more than you can ever imagine. I'm sure you saw I was named the Business Woman of the Year 2014, Business Leader of the Year 2014. And it was across the board. Every woman, Nigerians, wherever, they were all there. But I was picked because they feel that my story can inspire many women and men to do. Because if you look at the world, even our leaders, what they are doing, they're just calling the foreign investor. They don't believe we can do. But what we put up there in Naivasha, it's a first-class world of, in brewing, whatever industry. It's the first. There is nothing like that in Africa. It is the first. But we've done it. We Kenyans. And on top of that, I think I've given the whole story. On top of that, we've now, because I believe that we can do it, we launched a foundation. And this foundation is to give a hand to the upcoming entrepreneurs. And it's ongoing. I can see the CEO of that foundation is here, Joki Royal, and we are going to inspire as many women, I don't want to say many women, as many Kenyans as possible, so that we can own the industries of this country. We don't need the foreign investors, we can do better. And even if they come, let's build brands that will compete globally, so that even if they come, our brands will compete. Thank you.
And please tell us about scaling up. You're passionate about people scaling up whatever businesses they have, whatever ideas they have, and that you feel it's one of the key things that can help us in terms of Africa. What do you think we need to do so as to ensure that even the role of industry we play helps us as women to unite Africa?
We have scaled to make this thing big in terms of access, right? So we're doing this in Nairobi, serving a very fundamental role for the artists, the music community, who need an audience, and an audience who need a place to discover the music. And these two people are willing to transact with each other. The problem is there wasn't a middleman who can be able to create the environment. Context is king. There is nothing new about what we do. What is new, perhaps, is the way we presented it to people. So we built the context. When we built this context, we realized that these people enjoy this context and these artists are growing from this context. Okay, can we replicate this across Africa? Incidentally, the answer is yes, because Africans are actually we have a lot more in common than we have not in common. We have artists across the continent who are asking, how can I be heard and how can I be seen, right? We have them in Kenya asking the same questions, the artists in South Africa asking the same questions, the ones in Nigeria. So we say, why don't we create for you the platform so we can say to you as an artist, we can be able to take you to 10 different places across the continent. 10 different people can be able to hear what it is that you want to share with them. And then you will be able to be fulfilled as an artist because that's your joy in being able to share it. And this is the reason why we are scaling. We are fixing the question of distribution. In our industry right now, that's the biggest question. How do I distribute? Technology has been for and against us. So music has been pirated, the access, even when you want to actually buy, where will you actually buy the music? So there's been a lot of gray areas. The one thing that has never faded in the history of music is the actual performance of the history of music. If you have an artist that you love, you will never see them enough. You will always want to watch them. So this for me is a very basic principle, right? That there's artists who need to sing, there's artists who want to be seen, there's a continent that is willing to embrace its own artists. Is somebody willing to create the context? So this is why we went into Kampala. We are now 3 years in Kampala and fairly successful, actually quite successful. What is interesting for me when I go to Kampala, there is absolutely no difference with the way Blankets and Wine in Kampala looks as the way it looks in Nairobi. And in this year, 2015, we will be both Dar es Salaam and Kigali because it's the same people. These are East Africans who all want to watch their own artists and who all want to be part of a cultural revolution or evolution or whatever you want to call it. So for us, this is the reason why we have scaled.
To make it an African experience.
To make it an African experience, to
Okay.
take it to Africa.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And just talk about a different dynamic in terms of Africans taking up industry and women taking up industry. A major issue I'm sure we've all observed is Generation Y, isn't it? Whereby is the younger generation able to step up and take their place in industry? And even starting from a HR perspective, you will share with us. What do you think the generation gap that's happening in the dynamic? How many of you have seen a gap where Gen Y is concerned, isn't it? And where people say it's not that there's unemployment, where now people are talking of unemployability. Where people come and they expect their first job to be a 6-digit salary, you know what I mean, eh? And they expect to work less hours, flexi hours, and not putting in as much and expecting much from it. And for us to take over industries that are even more challenging, we need to have more tenacity. Yet even in the workplace that lacks. So from a HR perspective, what's your observation of that and what would you tell us we need to do?
Okay, that's a tough one because we're all still struggling to deal with that. I'm not in that category, but I think as employers, we need to sort of open up our minds to the whole aspect about motivation. I think what motivated us 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago is going to be very different for the next generation. So just actually reevaluating the whole aspect of motivation of staff. For example, when it comes to aspects around work structure, work schedules and all that, most of us were accustomed to having to be at work at a certain time and leave at a certain time. With technology, a lot of the younger employees are wanting space because they have access to information, a lot more information than we did, space to deliver on whatever is expected of them, but then space to be innovative and do their thing. So I think it's how do we structure our motivational package for the new generation. And I think as employers, we need to be very, not do a cut and paste thing. I think we can actually look at what works for us as an organization. It doesn't have to be we shouldn't necessarily be doing what the next door company is doing. Find out what works for you and create an environment that will motivate those employees. The other bit is about employee engagement. A lot of the answers that we're looking for sometimes are actually sitting with our staff. So how well are you engaging your employees to get ideas of what they need to motivate them to deliver on their expected targets? Aspects around performance targets. At the end of the day, I think the new employee will be saying, we have a deal here. The deal is I'm supposed to deliver A, B, C, D within a certain time at this quality level, etc. Once I deliver on that, give me space to operate the way that works for me, not the way that works for you as an employee 10 years, 15 years ago. So I think it's a matter of being more open-minded, engaging with those employees to get ideas from them, and also maybe learning from the Googles of this world and creating a space and environment within the organization that enables employees to thrive and be more, what can I say, innovative in everything they do. And also being heard, having a voice. The younger generation are not going to sit back and listen to orders and policies and procedures. That's going to go out of the window. They need to be engaged throughout.
So we need to listen to what they need so that they're able to deliver. Yes, yes.
I just wanted to add something onto that. When you were speaking, I thought of, I was thinking about the question that you've asked. Okay, so one of the things that children typically grow up hearing from their parents is there's no money. You think money grows on trees. There's no money, right?
Anyone who had that growing up, say I.
Okay, so the story hasn't changed, fantastic. So now you have this Gen Y who you've told that money is very important and there is no money. You've told them two things at the same time. Okay. The people that they love are footballers, for example. A footballer makes in a week what a lot of us will make in a lifetime. Right? The big footballers, Thierry Henry or whoever. I'm not a football fan, I just follow the money train, okay? So when my nephew tells me, your story about go to school, work hard and get an education is false, because I can just be a footballer and be rich. There's something very fundamental that Gen Y is saying. They're saying that there's another way this whole thing, they just see it from a different perspective. Can I be very excellent? If I can be very excellent, can I be rewarded for it? And I don't think that big industry will even see it coming naturally, because big industry is big industry. And so they won't even see it coming when another generation comes and disrupts the way business works. So I'll give you another example. There's a taxi service called Easy Taxi. You want a taxi, right? You're in your house. You want a taxi from your house to go to Westlands. So you send a message, you get a message back saying they've received it, you get a phone call from a taxi driver, he comes to your house, picks you, at the end of your journey you confirm that he has dropped you, and you go. The guy who owns Easy Taxi does not own a taxi and does not own you, but the guy has made money from that transaction. By being able to manipulate information, right, and to resolve a problem for you. Now, that person can very easily disrupt public transport. Very easily can disrupt public transport. Perhaps not for the majority, but there's a segment who can be taken out of public transport if he can make the taxi acquisition process easier. I think this is the way Gen Y thinks. It's like your theory, when you tell them, do, they're like, that's your theory, that's your movie. That's not my theory. Why can't I just do the thing that is easy to do and make money from it? And incidentally, it's okay to make money from the things that are easy, right? You can actually build a business. I also think that then you have to have, the right training and the right kind of character to make that thing that you do sustainable. So perhaps when my nephew tells me he wants to be a footballer, I tell him, but do you know somebody pays David Beckham? And then he says, what? I say, David Beckham is owned by somebody. Do you want to be David Beckham, or do you want to be the guy who has no problem writing David Beckham a check? Imagine how much money that guy has. So I shift his motivation, because suddenly he realizes David Beckham is somebody's employee. So how can I fix that? How can I be the guy who owns footballers? Now he's getting into football industry, which is timeless, whereas a footballer's it's a limited lifespan. They can only play football for so long.
Wow, so we need to engage them on their level. That's excellent. Engage them on their level and help them to see how they can be even more, isn't it, to step out in industry. Tabitha, I'd like to read something that many of us probably remember, and here's what it says. I'm just reading from a blog, or a site. It started with rumors that her drinks were not healthy when the company was only 6 years, followed by a tax blow where she was once asked to pay 1.2 billion in 14 days. Somebody say 14 days. Oh no, maybe the big part is there. 1.2 billion, isn't it? Either way, the whole story is quite something. But managed to win the court case. Okay, later she fought the charge of unethical trade practices that caused her Kericho billboards to be pulled down. I think it's one of the biggest battles that you fought. How on earth did you pull through that? What are some of the things that helped you to face the giants and the Goliaths and the strategies that have helped you to succeed? Because the truth is, once people knew she's taken on EABL, people are just thinking it's a matter of time. And where industry is concerned, if people want to go into the oil industry, oil and gas, that's a challenge. How are you able? What strategies did you put in place that helped you to fight and to conquer that? As women, we can do that, even as we step into industries for the future.
No, women, we can, because I've done it. I think we can. Yes. Okay, if I may say, some of these challenges, because I went through a lot of challenges, some of these challenges needed to be proven that they were wrong. Especially on quality. If I left it, it would have maybe taken another 50 years for anybody to think that he can bring a product that can compete with the multinationals and put it on top of the table. Because it will always be reminded, remember that lady who did this and this? Tabitha did this and this. You want to kill us like the way Tabitha was killing us? Because that's how it was going. That the products that we were making were killing. And it was brought on the floor of the House, one of the members of Parliament introduced that motion. And immediately after that, I knew. It's only one person who can say whether my products are good or not. So when you are doing your business, it's better you understand who is who for where, who licenses what, and then you make sure you have all the licenses. And when it comes to quality, it's only the Kenya Bureau of Standard or the government chemist. There's nobody else. So a member of parliament doesn't matter who. So you just tell him produce what you have, the proof that whatever we are producing is wrong. Because mine are here. And we introduced ours in the parliament, on the floor of the House, and then the parliamentarian was asked to introduce yours, because for Kericho they are here. And he just ran away. When it comes to the 1.2 billion, of course again, it was another challenge. If you left and finished, I think it could have halted again companies across Kenya, even in the world. Because there is no way a taxman can come and tell you that whatever tariff I gave you to pay this water 10 years ago is wrong. But I'll only pardon you 5 years, but will backdate it for 5 years. So if I left it, if this is Coca-Cola, backdating for 5 years, 10 years, nobody would survive. So I felt as a Kenyan, as somebody who have come all the way now, I think it was about 10 years now, getting to 10 years, it was about 8 years. I can't leave, because even if I leave, they follow me with the 1.2 billion. I was not worth that money then, and so they could have even put me, do they put people that they are bankrupt and all that? So you'll never ever walk anywhere, even to start anything in the country. And then when it comes even to your children, to follow the same. And even to the Kenyans now, they'll get so scared to start any business, because it will be a story. Even when you're in school, when you finish college, you want to start a business, and a mother will always remind you, remember that company that did this and this? You know that woman now walks on the street because of ABCD. So again, to prove and work very hard and ask my God to help me. And believe me or not, after only 1 year, that case was over. And we defeated it. And today, most of the companies are using it as a precedent. Is it president or president? Yes. So you can't afford anything you are doing it for, at times the rich is not about you now, it's about the country. Even what I'm doing now is not about me, it's no longer about money. It is to make sure that we can believe that it can be done. Actually, that's what I wake up for. Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Let's talk about the future and the ideal picture we are looking towards, because that's what it's all about. So, someone in the audience has asked this, and Modoni will start us off. What is Modoni Ndonga seeing in future as far as the entertainment sector is concerned? With events, etc., and probably at Ask, you could probably tell us, in line with that, a bit more about Good Times Africa, because probably it expresses that. And then the rest of us are going to probably answer the question of, so what's the future of Africa in terms of different industries, whether it's oil or energy or green gas construction, manufacturing, processing. What's your opinion about the future and where we need to go and what we need to do that? What's the ideal picture we need to paint?
That's a good one. That's an interesting one. There is no short answer. I will say this. Entertainment is a very strange breed because it morphs into whatever is required. One of the most important places that entertainment is going in Africa as we speak is to a level called brand, right? Because brand commands not only respect, but is then diverse. If you're a very good singer, so let's predict Sauti Sol in the next 10 years. Sauti Sol may never sing again, right? But Sauti Sol have a brand, which means that they can enter into a deal, for example, with Keroche, and they will produce X amount. There will be a liquor line that is produced that is called the Soul beer, right? And Sauti Sol are the frontmen for this beer, and perhaps even own part of that beer. One of the best examples in the world now, there's a guy in America called P. Diddy, who went to Diageo, who had this brand of vodka called Ciroc, which was doing really poorly, and which Diageo didn't really like because they thought Ciroc was going to interfere with Smirnoff. So they didn't really know what to do with it. And P. Diddy said, give me stake, give me some ownership in this thing, and give me 5 years to turn it around. And this guy is an influential music. He owns music record labels, and very many musicians are financed by him. So he went on a worldwide marketing campaign of Ciroc and turned around Ciroc from being this sort of irrelevant vodka into the most desirable, the most prestigious of them all, allegedly. This is all perception. So all the frontmen for Ciroc have been artists and actors and musicians, etc. But the most interesting of them all is P. Diddy, because P. Diddy was able to leverage his brand and say to a multinational like Diageo, give me one of your brands, give me stake and give me time. I can turn it around. That's a critical place where entertainment is going. That's why I say it's an interesting monster, because it can change. He can do that for alcohol, he can do that for fashion, he can do that for a home line, for cars, whatever. But it's even going into an even more interesting place, which is entertainers, by the virtue of what they do, are producers of content. Now, of course, everybody in the country is aware that there's a problem, or an anticipated problem, with digital migration, because it means now that if you have content, you don't have to go to your your top three to get your content across. You can now, 5 of you get together, get a license, and you can put out your own content. This means that fundamentally the entertainer has now been put in a new position of power called a producer. You can now play with the big boys. The big boys who didn't want to buy your TV show, now they need your TV show. But more importantly, just go and put your own TV show on the web. Forget them. Build collaborations and put your own material out. This, I think, is where entertainment is going in Africa. It's really in brands, and it's really in creation of content.
Excellent. Thank you so much. One more time, let's appreciate her. Okay, Joki, please tell us from a HR perspective, because human resource, how do we get women to plug more, even from employment, seeking employment into the oil sector and all those industries where we typically don't have women stepping into certain careers, certain roles? What do we do to have women to step into those roles and become leaders, whether it's either in employment or self-employment, so that we are leading in these industries? What do we need to do?
Okay, number of things. I think the first thing is to, sometimes it's good not to reinvent the wheel, because we have some of those sectors that are very, progressive, advanced in other countries. So I think sort of picking up on what has been done, say, in the West, specifically in the oil and energy sector. They're actually we've had a couple of clients come to us wanting to hire Kenyans in the diaspora to come back. So there's some of them sitting right in Texas, waiting to be picked up and brought back to Africa. So they are there. We probably haven't created the environment for them to come back to Kenya. So starting off with our own, but secondly, learning from those who are already ahead of us and picking up from the best professionals in that area. I think it's also pushing and incentivizing professionals or students to pursue that line of academic training and qualification, and incentivize them so that more and more of the younger generation are pursuing those degrees. Networking, leveraging on existing networks. How many of us are going into the oil and energy space and finding out who's coming into Kenya, who wants to invest in Kenya, who wants to invest in Africa, and how can we partner? What benefit can I offer this partnership? What role? Where is there a niche for me to partner with these institutions or organizations to deliver on? Yeah. So those are some ways of penetrating into that industry. Yeah.
Okay. The next question comes from the floor as well, and I'd like all of us to chip in. This is about the woman in the rural setting. Okay, so how do we integrate rural women into urban industries given the economic, intellectual, and cultural limitations? That lady there who's selling her own, what do we call it? The Kikuyu one. No, liquor, the illegal. Yes, and she's feeling she needs to go. So what does she do if she's looking at something and saying, I'll get there, but how she's doing it is wrong? And she doesn't have the information that we'd like her to have so as to get into a better place and just to get to urban industry setting. What can she do? What are the possibilities for them? Or that girl in, Bondo or Nyamera County, and she wants to sing, but you're telling her internet, but she doesn't have access to internet. What can they do so as to get to a place where they're leaders in industry? And what is our role in empowering that woman? What can we do as society and policy makers to ensure that they have the same access to information and then they can be leaders in industry?
Well, there's no shortcut. There's no shortcut in doing business, especially if you want to do a business that you want to compete, even not global, let's say even nationally. You want that product of yours can leave Nyamira, come to Naivasha, go to Mombasa, and is served and consumed by the same consumers, the same customers. So for me, I tend to think even giving that person information, first of all, you need to know what you want to do. What does she want to do? If it's just a traditional brew behind her house, removing her to tell her, no, it's supposed to be done like this, you require this capital, whatever, it must be in somebody. It must be in somebody. For me, I'm not saying that I will not inspire many, I will not talk to such, but if somebody just think that's more, that's more. So you're not starting a business for tomorrow, to grow it across Africa, to grow it the world, in global. It will be very hard to remove that person, especially if he's making non-quality products. Because first of all, they need to understand what are quality products, so that now even you can bring it on the table and start talking. Because even if Kiroche was condemned those 6 years on the floor of the house and all that, the proof was there that whatever they had started, they did it professionally from day one. And they wanted to compete nationally and globally. So we'll motivate them, we'll inspire them, but one must first of all have that vision and focus and know exactly where one wants to go. And to believe in himself so that he knows whatever he's making is not something just for that local market. It must move, it must go national, Africa, global. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes, please do. Just a bit, we'll have Modoni, Jockey, then Modoni, then we'll open it up. So anyone who'd like to ask a question, get ready as you wind up.
Yeah, I think it would be nice for many of us who have managed to go walk that path to take on a mentorship, take up a mentorship role where you actually are able to walk with this woman in the rural area, for them to, you know, handhold them and walk them through the journey where you continuously reinforce some of the value system that one has to have to succeed and survive and thrive in, as an entrepreneur. So I think that is very critical. Just coming up with a program that matches somebody who's pursuing to become an entertainment professional. How many of them can be mentored by somebody like Modoni? Yeah. So I think those are opportunities for some of us who've been successful to provide guidance and wisdom and advice.
My perspective is that there's no need to bring a rural woman into an urban setting industry. My question is, industry is industry. Can the industry not be done based on what is in that environment? Okay. We did blankets and wine in Nanyuki maybe 4 years ago, 3 years maybe. And I spent a lot of time in Nanyuki, looking for venues, looking what's the infrastructure, what's available in Nanyuki. Nanyuki is potentially one of the most beautiful places I've been to in Kenya. And there is such a distinct difference in the quality of life between the Kenyans, you know, black Kenyans, Mwafrika Kenyan, okay, and the Mzungu Nanyuki Kenyan or British, depending on which passport they have that day. Okay?
People are wondering which one is the African.
It is, you know, it's one of those, it's a very curious thing, right? And you see that also like when you go to a place like Diani where there's or like Malindi, so you see that there's a distinct difference between these Wazungu Kenyans and these Kenyan Kenyans. So we were looking for a venue, and so I think I saw every single venue there is in Nanyuki. I found that with all the natural beauty, that, I mean, you have the mountain, you wake up and there is Mount Kenya. That's it, that's your view. And the place grows food, right? So if you're trying to do something that is in food or tourism, which a global industry, you can succeed in Nanyuki. There's proximity to a big city, there's a good local population, the raw materials are there, so you can be successful. But everywhere we went, there was such a distinct difference between the way the British Wazungu Kenyans set up and the way the Kenyans set up. So there's this little, I'll give you an example, then if you ever go to Nanyuki, check it out. There's this little restaurant at the airstrip called Barney's, which is literally a kibanda. It's just some poles and a roof, right? And in the corner, there's a little kitchen. But the place is so pretty, so nice. They have like a sliver of grass. The staff treat you well. They are competent. There's little flowers on the table. You just feel like you've entered somewhere you want to spend 4 hours. Then we went to another venue, which is just up Brabant School. I'm forgetting the name, but I will remember, and I'll give it to John to post on the website. Owned by these Kenyans. Guys, it's incredible. Like, there's lawn, like the Windsor. It's just beautiful. And then in the middle, they have this nyamachoma shack-looking mabati thing and some rooms, right? So it's important to me. I was looking for a venue because when you have an event, you have artists. So where are you going to put artists to sleep? So I look at these two things and I say both of these people are running similar ideas. They have a venue, they have food, they want tourism. This person who's at the airstrip is behaving like they're trying to build a global brand. So if you get off the airstrip, you think that you're in the mini Hilton. And that becomes a brand. So there are people who leave Nairobi and go to for coffee at Barney's in Nanyuki on Friday at 4 p.m. But they don't go to this other person's place because this other person is behaving like they're running a kiosk. And that's really the difference. So for me, there's no need to bring that person in Nairobi to compete to tell them about building a tourism business. You have Mount Kenya. You grow your own food. Is it not possible to go through a catalog and dream of making something nice? Then using the resources that you have and all the creativity of all the artists that you can find in Kenya, build something beautiful.
Right where you're
So,
at.
this is my thing. Like Tabitha is saying, it's got to be in you, right? That's a difficult person to mentor. What I would be interested in doing is collaborating. I would much rather have somebody who is saying, I have this land. When I go to all these Wazungu places, I see how nice it is, but I don't know how to make something like that. How can I do something that can attract tourists to come here? How can I use the mountain to my advantage? How can I use the food that I am growing to my advantage? That's the difference between organic, that little word, organic. In Karen, they have things called organic market. Everything in Kenya is organic, it grows from the ground. It's organic already. But the minute you put organic in front of the cabbage becomes three times as expensive, right? But you're growing it in Nanyuki, so you can have an organic farm that does a sale once a month. And then you can start to export your organic cabbages. So for me, there's no need to move people here. The question is where you are. How do we get you to use what you have to tap into the international industry?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think something that stands out, that stepping out is getting out of the box, isn't it? Or throwing away the box. Just stepping out is just that step out, and you don't have to have a 7-step process, strategic plan, policy making, you know what I mean? It just starts with where you are, what's your desire, just do it and make it happen, you know, follow policies, follow procedures, ensure that you have quality and step out for international standards. Isn't that amazing? Now, before we open it to the crowd, many people have asked this question, Tabitha, how do you balance being a mother, being a wife, being a businesswoman, and fighting the Goliaths? How do you balance that in your life? And then we'll open it up, the floor to anyone. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll come to you as we wrap up.
Yes, it's known. I think this one I started a debate when I was celebrating my husband last year in November 29, because I felt he supported me as a woman to be where I am. And traditionally in Africa, it's known that any successful woman is not married. If you're rich as a woman, driving a Range Rover or whatever, it's known you're not married. Or either your husband has bought it for you. So, I think it's the same thing, the culture. Women, we need to work hard so that our men can support us. Reason is, if you become a professional, he will support you in one or the other way. Meaning, the 100% things that you're supposed to do, 100%, maybe you end up doing 60, then 40, are done by your husband. So I can't claim and say that my success is about me, myself alone. It's because of support of that husband. And that's how I've been able to balance things. That I'm able, when I'm not in the industry, not in the brewery, my kids need to talk to me, maybe they are abroad and they all need to talk to me half an hour. If you are taking an hour to talk on phone, there is somebody taking care of the business. And then we women, when we rise up there, let's not forget, we are women, we are mothers, and then you get the support of all, and then you're able to balance. Because I can't really stand and say what magic I've done to be able to be a mother and a husband, a mother and a wife. Is because of just balancing and making sure that everyone is happy If it comes to dinner, if your husband wants you to make food for him, you are there making. You know, make that, it's only 1 hour, finish, then it's over. If it's your children, they need to be dropped somewhere, school, Sunday school, wherever, you are there, give that little time for them. If it's family time, be there. Make sure that you are with them. If it's dinners and all that, family time is family time. When it comes to business, it's business. Because I know even my children, they know when they are in the brewery, it is business. They refer me as Mrs. Karanja, the CEO, like that. My husband, the CEO, or whatever. When you reach at home, it's sweetheart. Isn't it? But it's not on the other side. So it's just balancing. And then let's not make it so hard. You know, we make it as if it's a very hard thing that you can't balance. We can have it all. We can be a mother, a successful businesswoman, and a wife. Thank you.
Wow. Great. Thank you for that. I think it's amazing how they brought it down, isn't it? And just simplified each of the steps that we need to take, and it starts from us as individuals. Great. Is there any question that anyone would like to ask? Okay, I see one. We'll have all the questions at once. If you want to ask, raise your hand now. One. Is there a mic going that side? Please take this mic. The lady in white, one. The lady in orange, two. This lady here, three, four. The last chance, the fourth one. Great. Going once, going twice. Gone. We have 4 questions.
Okay, thank you for a nice presentation. I like it. My question is, how long will it take for us to throw away the box and think worldwide? We've been told that we think out of the box, but it's the time to throw away the box. How long will it take? Entrepreneurs are born, some are not born, they are mentored, but then it's nurtured. How will we monitor this? And we found that in our high school, we have our girls, we have our boys, they do small businesses, they sell biscuits, they play tires in the dormitories, but when they come out here, they start crying of finances, they start complaining about money, and in the school, they've been making their own pocket money. How will you reach outside there to implement this?
Yes, next question. We'll take all of the questions, then we proceed.
Good afternoon, everyone. That was the panel up there. Really, that was really inspiring kind of conversation that you started. My question is around the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. So, as many of you might know about it, this is basically U.S. Government giving, let's say, African countries or developing countries, for that matter, preferential treatment when it comes to trading with the US and other economies. So 13 years down the line since the agreement was signed or the treaty was signed, whatever, we have not utilized that platform as Africa in general. This platform allows us to trade with about 6,500 products with the US. And Kenya alone, I think, has only done about 28 of those products. So you can see that gap, 13 years. That deal closes in September of this year. We have barely scratched the surface, but Obama's administration is considering renewing that for another 10 years. So my challenge to Africa, really, is how we're going to use some of these opportunities that are basically dropped on our laps. And it's just an open question, not necessarily to the panel, but an open question to all of us who are here. How are we going to use opportunities like this to grow as women and as Africa in general? So I'm here in a capacity as a women and youth representative for one of USAID's programs in Kenya, and and that is the Financial Inclusion for Rural Micro Enterprises program. And so I'm very ready and willing to hear from the women and men here how we can use such platforms to improve our livelihoods. Thank you.
As a business owner, there's one problem which I ran into several times, is that a lot of deal making seems to be happening in the evenings over a beer. And if it's one-on-one with a guy, not so sure. But also guys don't want you to join their little group. So I'm just wondering, how have you come across that, and how do you actually deal with that?
There was one more question. Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to talk about access to finance. First and foremost, I want to say today is very interesting. It's a very interesting afternoon. At least I don't see anybody sleeping. Very interesting topic. I wanted to talk about access to finance. Most businesses, especially owned by women, when they talk about the challenges they have, they always talk about finance. And therefore, in this African space, we have opened doors to all sorts of equity and debt financials. So what I wanted to know from the panel is, what is your take on this in terms of access and opportunity or options for women who want to build their businesses in future, and big businesses, not thinking small. At least we've had real testimonies of how breaking those ceilings will get you there. People stop asking whether you're married. Then my question is, where do you begin in terms of finance, in terms of capital, debt or equity? Will you let a foreigner come on part of your business so that you succeed? Or do you think we can make a difference with the financial solutions we have available in this country? Thank you.
Okay, excellent. So I think I'll repeat the questions. What does it take for us to step out, think out of the box? Even going much lot early in primary school, 13 years later, we haven't tapped into such opportunities. We have up to September, and maybe it will be extended. How do you tap into these opportunities? How do you deal with those situations of business deal over a drink, you know? So, and then I like Modoni told me that one is yours, you know? So we'll hear how that goes. And then access to finance, looking at debt versus equity, how do you go about it? So any of you can pick up any of the questions you'd like. Do we start from you? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'll comment on, now in terms of your question on financing, I really think it depends on what kind of business you want to get into. My theory is that always starts small initially. When I say small, get your ducks lined up initially, start small, start crystallizing your business into a certain, in a certain way, and then once you've tried it off in the first year, you'll be able to convince potential investors into your business. That's one model, that's one option. Now it really depends on the kind of business you want to start, really. Because if I talk about my own business, I actually started very small. I started, because everything I sell is here. You know, I just package it, but it's all here. So it's very different. I think it really depends on the business, kind of business you're wanting to get into. But also, if it's big, then how have you packaged your business in such a way that you're able to go in and convince investors to come in? There's nothing wrong with getting investors into your business. You don't have to totally put in all the money. So you can get investors without necessarily borrowing. So that's one other model. I think the third model is there are lots of opportunities out there for women-owned businesses to be financed by lots of organizations. But again, it has to be a very compelling, convincing business plan or business case that the numbers are done, the business model is very convincing for you to get investors. So I think those are 3 of the options I would pursue. On the AGOA bit, I don't know too much about it, but my question is, have there been a lot of hindrances within the whole AGOA process that have restricted a lot of women from penetrating or accessing the AGOA opportunities? Has anyone done a study to evaluate why are people, women, or organizations not tapping into it? And in the next 6 months, what can be done to open up that space for those organizations? So that's my take on those 2 questions.
The three questions, they are like the same. I mean, they are adding up to something to become the same. Because when you come over thinking outside the box, how long are we going to take and all that, it's just by being ready to take risks. If you are ready to take the risk, you get out of the box. If you are ready to take the risk by tomorrow, get out of the box by tomorrow. And then, about if you get the support, let's say what they are saying of the American, wherever, we need to get the support. That is good and is welcome. But about African market, it is us. I don't know whether people know about the research, that the 33% of the African products are the only products sold in Africa. The other 67 are all imported. 24% they are from South Africa, 9% from Nigeria, 1% from Kenya. So you can imagine how much market do we have. Do we even need any help? We just need to think outside the box, take the risk, start industry, and then we start servicing those gaps that are there. When it comes to the capital, as she says, start small with whatever little that you have. Package your business plan. Me, I don't support equity from the beginning because you will not be allowed to think about your business. You will not be allowed to wake up in the morning and plan because you'll be waiting for a boardroom meeting that will take a week, 2 weeks. Just need to think about your business when you are showering, when you're in your dining, when you are driving, and when you get to your office, you just implement what you've thought and then you move forward. So it's me, I believe on financing. Going to the bank first, build an industry, a company that is worth being sold in the Kenyan market. Nairobi Stock Exchange is there. So when you grow it now, it's rich enough, take it there, then you reap back your money. Rather than getting an investor from the beginning, your dream. You know, every time you start a business, it's your own dream. So there's nobody else who can share that dream. It's only you. So the minute you start your business with whatever little that you have, you see there's that gap, that opportunity, put it down, put your business plan, take it to the financier, and they buy into it. The second one, get the fall, reach where now we are talking of 5 billion. When I talk of 5 billion, people think, is it true or is it not true? But you started with 100,000, 200,000, a million, 3 million, then you raise to 100, you raise to 1 billion, then you go to like that. So that's how businesses are built, and they are built all over the world. Then when you are tired, then at that time now you can call investors to come in, and then they can give you back your money. But even equity, not bad, but to start with, for you to drive that business to the next level, it must be you. The minute you are distracted, you are 3 people, some don't have where you wanted, you don't have the picture where you wanted to go. They'll always distract you. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Please answer the question.
Sorry, can I just add one more bit to that?
Yes,
Partnerships. Once you grow your business, for us, we've managed to expand our business through partnerships. So people have seen what we're doing and they identify where both parties can benefit. So it becomes a win-win arrangement. We're equal partners expanding the business. They have an area that they're offering that we're not as strong in, and we have an area that we're offering that they're not as strong in. So also partnerships is another way to go. But again, it has to start small, and like, as Terry has said, yeah, that's it. Sorry.
Okay, so I just want to answer two of the questions. You said something, the lady who asked about getting out of the box, you said something about when they're in school, they're able to sell biscuits, whatever, do some kind of deals, and they're making money from that. But when they come out into the real world, now they're broke, they don't have any money. And I think a big part of the problem is because that little thing that they're doing to be able to turn around 1 shilling into 1.5 shillings into 2 shillings, that there is nobody who is able to sit and have the conversation with that person who's doing that and help them understand that they are already in business. That if they have a commodity that they can sell and even make a profit, that they're already doing something that a lot of big companies don't even do. I made to understand the big newspaper businesses didn't get into profit until 10 years of trading. I think Nation was 10 or 17 years before they broke even. So if that guy is selling a mandazi at 4 bob and making a profit of 1 shilling, he's already succeeding. The problem is, I think, when I think about my high school days, there was nobody who could tell me that conversation. Because we had this class that was called Guidance and Counseling, which was about our teacher telling us not to get pregnant, which is very useful information, but we weren't even trying to get pregnant. What would have been interesting at that moment is for her to tell us, you see, when you go out for drama festival, then you come back with chips, which you bought at 30 shillings, then you sell it for 60 shillings. 30 shillings is profit. What do you do with profit? So I'm kind of excited that I'm made to understand that we have a foundation that wants to talk to young entrepreneurs. This is how we may be able to reach out to Gen Y. They might need to see young entrepreneurs who they recognize. Now this is me pitching for a job, eh? They might be able to see young entrepreneurs that they recognize and to have those conversations with them very candidly, right? And I think that may be one way to do it, for people to have the conversations with young people, parents included, and stop demonizing this thing, because if you have decided money is so important, then you must teach young people how to make this money that is so important. That's the first answer. Now, Linda, you asked about AGOA, and I love it, because this is the bane of my existence. That we have a wonderful opportunity to trade with America that, let's say, 98% of the country doesn't know. 2% of the country who do know that are not able to access it, and a lot of that is structural. So the AGOA that all of us know about is EPZ, right? So we are making jeans, and jeans are getting exported to America. That's what we know. The bigger question that we should be really asking about is the fashion industry. Because why are jeans being made here? There's a question of labor, access to labor, that they're then exporting, so people are buying clothes. Okay, so why doesn't Kenya manufacture clothes? So how can we really be able to utilize some of that? So some of that is structural. We do not manufacture clothes in Kenya. I have a lot of fashion designer friends. That's like my other area of interest. And there's a structural problem, for example, because Kenya doesn't grow enough cotton. That's the raw material. For Tabitha to be able to make beer, she needs barley. For you to make clothes, you need raw material, silk, cotton, etc. The cotton industry doesn't work in Kenya, and that's systemic. Government has to intervene. Now, for me, I find it almost ridiculous that this was not the first thing that they decided to fix. To fix fashion means you have to fix raw material. It means farmers. That means you fix a part of agriculture. You put money in the pockets. And where does cotton grow in Kenya? Quite a few of those places where cotton grows are actually opposition zones. Fantastic. That means that the opposition can now have nothing to say because farmers are happy and they're making money, so they can support the government agenda. That's simple, done. But more importantly, the number of people that business can then employ, because you have to, after the cotton is got, you have to clean it. You have to convert the cotton into like the cotton that then we can use to shona, right? So this is a structural thing. And that's part of the reason why we haven't been able to tap into AGOA. Because when you go and sit with government, when you go and sit with the minister and say, please, Young people like to look good. We want to make clothes. If we make clothes, we can have jobs and we can be rich. They don't see that as a useful agenda. So if anybody is friends with the First Lady in the house, please tell the First Lady if she just makes fashion her cause, not a frivolous cause, but to come at it from the industry. The fashion industry is a multi-billion industry. Everybody in this room wears clothes. All of you bought clothes.
Wow, parting shots as you wrap up. I think one thing that stood out is think differently, isn't it? That ultimately, and we're saying, I think you've just redefined that women in future industries for Africa have to just think differently, isn't it? It's the simple things. I think you've just reminded me of, we know Afia Juice, don't we? And we know that, have you ever seen a TV ad of Afia? A radio ad? A billboard? Yes, the juice. AFIA. Have you seen? Yes? Oh, okay. You have. Oh, they're out there, but they're rarely out there, isn't it? But they're selling, and even the guy selling sweets is selling Afia. Because they just thought differently. They thought of a word that many Kenyans relate to. They thought of the texture that guys like in Del Monte, but a container that someone can carry in a mat, isn't it? And they're taking over to a great extent. So just to think differently. Meshmi wants to give a comment. So help me pass this. I just like, don't worry. Okay, so please, go ahead.
Sorry, I was itching to be a panelist, but I'm not. So I'm going to make a few comments, and I'll take on from where you left on AGOA. AGOA is, as you've heard, is African Growth and Opportunities Act. And when it was brought to Kenya, what we did is set up an EPZ, and the EPZ did not work very effectively because people imported clothes from China, made a label made in Kenya, and exported them. And it takes a very short time for that to be discovered and to get to a point where it's no longer going concern. So what Godoni has said is really true. We must get production back to where it's supposed to be. Kenya used to be one of the major exporters of cotton materials. I remember Raymond suits, I'd buy them in London, and they were made in Kenya. And I've imported a suit and I thought it's good, and I wear it and I found it was made in Kenya. So that's when we had our cotton industry going very well. At the moment, the cotton board is starting to get cotton back onto its feet. I'll tell you a story of a woman. She's taken women from Makueni to grow cotton. One of the back-breaking work of growing cotton is picking cotton. So she's gone to China and discovered a small machine that picks 4, 5, 6 times more cotton than an individual can pick. So children can go to school while the mother is actually picking cotton. And that has created a small industry for cotton. And what she's doing is she's then converting this cotton into material for the designers to use to produce. She's also discovered that in Kenya, you can make silk, not using mulberry, but using, what do you call it? Silkworm. You have a silkworm that eats mulberry, which grows out there in China, but you can have another product. I'll remember what it is. And she started that project, which is done some work at Isipe, and it's just about to go into trials, and we'll be able to be doing our own cotton. It requires somebody to consistently focus on what to do to sort out the problem. This lady happens to be the sister to my wife, so I know what she's doing very well, and she's my sister-in-law. On top of that, if you look at where do you start as a woman, the Kenya government has committed that 1/3, again the magical 1/3, 1/3 of all government tenders will go to women, youth, people with disabilities. You register your company, You go to the internet, you register under AGPO, Access to Government Opportunities, and once you register, you do not go through the strong vetting that traditional businesses go through, and you will get business. It is started. I don't know how many of you are registered. I don't know how many of you have tried to get onto that, but that's something that you can use. Then there are two facts that we need to look at. The Chinese government does work by design and by commitment. So the Chinese government has decided last year that within 3 years, they're going to come out of the cotton industry. So within 3 years, the demand for cotton, the demand for cheaply produced clothes will go exponential. If we start preparing now, then within 3 years, there'll be sufficient cotton coming from Kenya to meet a little bit of that demand and make some people rich. So if you want to start a business, that's the tip. The Chinese government has also decided they're coming out of creating solar panels. Most of the solar panels were being manufactured in China. And when they do that, that's another industry that has a lot of opportunities. So I've just made a few comments. I think that is to just add on to what the good panel has done. Very fantastic job. Well done, all of you. Very, very motivating. Thank you.
As we wind up, thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. It's good to hear what the government is doing, isn't it? And now we know that if you want to thrive, snails, worms, cotton, that's the way to go, isn't it? Start changing some of the rooms in your house. That guest room could be a snail or worm room, isn't it? I tell you. So parting shots. Just share with us your final thoughts. I think one thing that people really want to know is if they want to step out as individuals, how do they step out? How did you finally step out to from employment to self-employment? And then Muthoni will give us your parting shot, and Tabitha, as you answer the question of how do you do business over a drink, okay? 2 sentences, please.
I felt I was in a cage, so talking about or responding to the whole getting out of the box, I felt that I had a lot of untapped ideas that were bottled up, and in an environment, in an employment environment, that I was very stifled. So by getting out, it has enabled me not only to be an employer of majority of the employees I have are women. I'm able to utilize them and turn them into a profit-making avenue. The other bit is tapping into my networks. I had a lot of networks, but they were all social networks, so people I met in parties. Those have now translated into business networks, and it's amazing. Every single day, I'm able to leverage on those networks for business. So to cut a long story short, yes, it was giving me an environment for me to turn my ideas into a money-making opportunity and also to impact people's lives positively. So the next step for me is to set up a foundation very soon this year to help and impact society positively.
Excellent. Let's appreciate Njoki for that. Thank you so much, and all the best as you get out in industry.
So if I could also borrow her format. What made me step out was really circumstances. I have always sung since I was a child. I didn't think it could be a real thing until I had to have a band. And then very quickly, it becomes real. You have to pay for people's transport, you have to pay for equipment. So is this thing going to be, or is it not going to be? That was it. It was just black and white, yes or no. I picked yes. And so you do this thing, and then you get to a point, we were singing in some little dingy bar in Westlands, and you get to a point where you're putting more than you can get. In business, we call that a loss. So, generally, what entrepreneurs do is you hang in there. Just hang in, because everybody tells you, never quit, never quit. And then, one day I said, in fact, I must quit this thing. But I will not quit singing. But this current circumstance, this one must be quit, because this one is going nowhere, right? So if I still want to sing, and the one that I'm doing is not working, my only option was to find something else that's working. And it's really circumstance that pushed me to have to think about. And because I had done it for a while, right? Or what seemed like a while to me. I'd done that for 2 years. We were having a conversation with my friends, and the conclusion of that conversation is write a list of everything you have ever done, which is giving you loss, negative. Now just do the opposite. Everything, just opposite. If you sing at night, sing during the day. If you sing in a venue that is near people, go far away from people. If you like your friends to come, do one for other people. And so that was how Blankets No One was born, reversing everything I was doing 360. The only thing that I added, which I wasn't doing before, I said, okay, if my fans are only 300, what if I went and reached out to 3 other musicians who everybody also has 300 fans? So you'll advertise for your fans and you and you and you. And then now we'll have 1,200 people. And really that was the formula. So everybody advertised because everybody had something to gain. And now what I gave the musician was a guarantee. I say when you perform, you don't have to worry whether people come or not. I'll give you a good quality, you get the best equipment, I will also pay you. So the musician sees this is beneficial for me. And it is beneficial because they get an audience and they get paid. And then, voila, now we have a business that has grown. Why are we going into Uganda, Tanzania, etc.? There is an opportunity. But also, we've done this business here 6 years. We are the market leader. We are a whale in a pond. It's a small market here. So we have more markets. I say, okay, let's go out there. Because what we're trying to build is a business that Richard Branson is going to say, you have the network in Africa for music. So we want in on that business. That's the reason I step out. We're building a business for the future. And so I would advise anybody who is thinking, contemplating, wondering, working with women, these things are not normally rocket science. The thing you like doing, that's the answer. If you like clothes, that's the answer. If you like cake, that's the answer. If you like children, that's the answer. Do the thing that you like, and then just watch the way circumstances will come your way.
Wow, thank you. Thank you very much. So maybe you could briefly answer her about business of a drink and then your parting shot to us.
We all ran away from that. I forgot the question. I know we forgot about it, yeah. Okay, business discussions. I know when I say this, I will be losing a market. But you start them in the boardroom. You do them in the boardroom, conclusion. So when you go to the bar now, it's like cheering, depending on the business, whatever you join together. Others don't go to discuss. If you take me there, I only take 2 summit malls. If I take 2, I'm already drunk. So how long will it take for that conversation to take whatever? So for me, for women, whoever, finish whatever you're doing about the discussion of the business and all that in the boardroom. Then from there, go and celebrate with your drink 1 or 2. My parting shot, you're calling it parting shot. My parting shot, what I've seen or what I've, through my own experience for the last 18 years. When I say this, I know it looks as if to some people it's impossible. But we can do it. We can do it. Whatever you're thinking, like the way Muthoni is saying, that you want to do, just start it from where you are with whatever you have, and then from there you walk. When you're walking, you find so many people outside there, ready to hold your hand. We've already started a foundation with Kyocho Breweries. It's just for holding people's hands. The upcoming entrepreneurs, we hold people's hands, but not the beginners, 3 years. Because a beginner, maybe it's just, but after 3 years, we know now you're serious. You want to move to the next level. So just start from wherever, because we've built, when we were coming in, if I may go back, we were being told, never ever try to introduce a brand that is near the brand that was there at that time, which is still even there. But we said, even you better make a better one than what was there. We've done it. The technology that is there is better than what was before there. But if we feared the ceiling that we've broken with the banks and all that, of individual lending. It's amazing. So we can do it. We just need to start from where we are, with whatever we have, and then the doors open. And then God is with us. As a woman, remember how many times we pray every day. So God will never forget you. Will never, even when people say, now we ought to give a red card, that's the time God comes in and uplifts you. So let's all believe in that. Let's all believe in that, and the opportunity that is here in Kenya, in Africa, it's amazing. That's why you see worldwide, when they're having their board meetings, the big companies, they can never have a meeting and not discuss about African market, because this is only where we have this opportunity. So let's take the advantage and move on and grow our economy, our country, our continent. Poverty will be behind our backs.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Women in Future Industries for Africa. So I think in a nutshell what we've said is that whatever you want to scale up in whatever industry, scale it up relevantly, isn't it? You don't have to do what others are doing, whether the rest are doing it this way, make it relevant where you are. Generation Y to take over in industry, we need to connect with them in a relevant way. If it's the Beckham language they'll understand, use that and help them dream more. Start where you are, irrespective of what you're doing. I like what you said, that on a certain level, it no longer becomes an issue of male or female. So let's try to get to that level, and we are the leaders to get to that level and pave the way for the rest of the women, isn't it? So that the trend changes, and that's no longer whether you're male or female, but it's about you're a leader. I think a big one is values, follow policies, standards, quality, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when people will come to bring you down. And as long as you have the foundation right, you will withstand, isn't it? That's how the 1.2B was overcome. And then believe and dream. Balance, simple. Give time for where it's, give honor where it's due. Prioritize. At work is work. At home is home. And then you get to achieve what you want. I think Women in Future Industries for Africa, we just need to think out of the box. The simple things in life that matter, and we shall get there, won't we? Let's appreciate them one more time. Thank you so much.